Insert the usual shilling, like, comment, subscribe, rate. Let's talk about this topic. Egregore. Now, this is an esoteric concept that's basically representing a non-physical entity that arises from the collective thoughts of multiple people. Much in the same way orcs work in Warhammer 40k. Hold this thought in for a minute and let's talk about something else. Remember a few years ago, 1, 2, maybe 3 years ago, there was this trend on TikTok where women were pretending to go to the world of Harry Potter, calling it manifesting. Basically, what manifesting refers to is believing to something so much that you make it come true. It sounds a little bit like Egregore, and again, we need to look at 40k orcs to better understand that these concepts are just that, thinking something into existence. I forgot to mention that for Egregore, a good example is the Cult of Gadget from Rescue Rangers. Well, that's also debatable since those cult members, who happen to be Russian, seem to be trolling more than anything else, but that's a different story. Now let's talk about World of Warcraft and how some people are manifesting racism into World of Warcraft. And they really want it to be true. They really want to bring all of that racism that they have gathered up in their head into the game. Now, of course, I have to make a disclaimer that there have been cases of true racism in World of Warcraft. I even have a mention of one of the bigger cases here. But it's not related to that, because that case that I have on my channel, that's real. That's against black people. But that's about it. What these people are trying to do is manifest racism thanks to video game characters. Let's begin with one of the most interesting subjects, and one that's a little newer to me, and I had to find out in a pretty weird way, is that there's been some controversy when it comes to Twitter. Big shock, I know. About a new set for World of Warcraft that has a white hat. It's a white wizard hat. It's a pretty nice looking hat, I guess. It's a nice set. And the problem is that many people decided to see the set as a warning. Something that can be used by racists to cosplay another KKK event. Though I've never seen a KKK event roleplayed in World of Warcraft, and informations about those events I think have been so limited and there's so little proof of them that until we get to see something for real that we can attest to, it's kind of a stupid point to make. Racists can use anything against anyone. In fact, you can even use skin colors. We shouldn't really get rid of skin colors for that, but let's move on. It's been a huge debacle when it comes to the white wizard hat. And some shots were fired here and there, and then more normies got to see that there are a bunch of people that are trying to egregore their own racism into the game, or their own victimization into the game, and that's an interesting concept. Imagine how devoid of life and anything else you have to be to try and do that. Nevertheless, it's not the only example that we have. We can look at Exploring Kalendor, where people thought that a Darkspirit troll being illiterate is somehow racist. Now, you have to understand, they think it's racist to even attack an orc. And the reason that I wanted to make this video is because there's been these rumors every time something new happens in World of Warcraft. Whatever it's a new race or a new customization option for a certain existing race, there will always be people that are not going to be on with the program, and there will always be people that will want to be offended thanks to those people that are not on with the program. To begin something very easily, I've heard rumors about Manati dismemberment in the middle of Stormwind. Now, this might sound pretty strange, but the Manati, the demon Draenei, have been introduced as a customization option for the main Draenei recently. And apparently some people decided it's a good idea to roleplay the killing of one, because demonic forces and so on. Which, in truth, it's a little bit of a strange concept. Again, I have no proof of this, and I think there is no proof out there of this happening, so take it with a grain of salt. But certain people decided to be offended because of it, much in the same way they did about the white wizard hat, and started to complain about it. The problem is that it's never something real. You see, they will always claim racism because, oh no, there are Vulpera hunters. Now, excuse me, it is kind of funny to think about people role-playing as Vulpera hunters. Just basically a hunter, hunting foxes. Kind of easy, all you need is a hound, that's it. Most of the time, so anyway. There are a bunch of people that consider these acts to be signs of racism in the Warcraft world, in the Warcraft community. You see, there might be signs of racism. I'm not saying no. Not everyone's as peaceful as 40k. But the idea is that they're seeing this, but they're not talking about real cases. There is no example of real cases, like much in the same way there is no real proof of this made-up racism. So thus, it's pretty easy to say that these people are trying to make the racism in their own head to be real. For example, somebody wants to beat orcs because he likes role-playing, I guess, the Second War. Why not? And then everybody will claim racism. Now, granted, since orcs represent Romanians, it's kind of hard to know if it's racism or not. It depends on the skin color of the perpetrator. If it's white, it's not racism. If it's black, it is racism, but that's a different point. Now, after saying all this, I think it's important to note one immense aspect. The Man'ari, much in the same way as the orcs or any other new race like the Vulpera, the Draktyr, whatever, are pixels. Now, for most human beings, yes, they are pixels, and that's pretty normal, and it's not something big. I am quite sure that none of the definitions of racism, the old one that's normal and the new one that's made just to create more victims in their own minds, really apply to pixels. Now, of course, people will go, oh, but it's racist to pick on the other races of World of Warcraft. The problem is that World of Warcraft is a game that really should go back to its racial war roots. That's the most interesting thing. World of Warcraft exists because of the two factions and the racial war between the Horde and the Alliance, the orcs and the humans. There's no doubt about it. So, skinning a Man'ari in the middle of Stormwind might just be normal if you're doing it with the Demon Hunter, and let's be honest, they really should do that. Demon Hunters are always the most interesting thing, how they can easily accept demonic forces into their own ranks, and how they can accept the Man'ari. But we have no story to prove that, we have no information about Demon Hunters doing anything, so let's just act like role-playing is fun, and people can have fun doing one of the main aspects that made World of Warcraft what it is. At the end of the day, it's not racist to, dismember a Man'ari in Stormwind. I also have to consider the most important aspect about this dismemberment of pixels in the game is that parties have to be consenting to this. If me and my friends want to roleplay, I don't know, the trial and judgment of a black Draktyr that ends up much in the same way some stories about the witch trials, and then if we're all on board with it, what's the problem at the end of the day? Now, what I'm saying might seem normal. At the end of the day, again, they're just pixels. But for the people that want to always be victims, that want to manifest their victimhood and all the racism that happens everywhere into the game, we have to understand that we're not dealing with people that can separate fiction from reality. They lack that ability to do that. Now, granted, even little kids sometimes lack it, and that makes sense. They're kids, they're still learning. The fact that we're dealing with adults that can't really break that mold and that want to manifest all that racism in their head into the real world, that think their fantasy is true, is dubious. It's Christian levels of dealing with problems, and it's not healthy. And that's why most people will cry when they see somebody pick a fight with, I don't know, a Draktyr, because they're a Draktyr, a black Draktyr, which black Dragonflight, it's kind of awful, but whatever. At the end of the day, they can't really separate the real world from fiction. They act that if you commit a crime against fictional Romanians, it's somehow a crime against normal Romanians. But I'm here to tell you that that's not true. They're pixels. You can roleplay that you want to, I don't know, do anything to pixels. If both parties are consenting at the end of the day, does it really matter? Nevertheless, remember these important aspects whenever you find one in the wild. They're just pixels. Both parties are consenting. And at the end of the day, there's really no proof of what you're saying. I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you in the next one.